The Galactic Council's mockery. The Galactic Council chamber echoed with the sound of derisive laughter as the representative from Earth, Captain Nolan Reyes, stood alone in the petitioner's box. The vast, circular room was filled with the galaxy's most powerful species, all of whom regarded humanity with thinly veiled contempt. Nolan gripped the podium, his knuckles turning white as he struggled to maintain his composure in the face of such blatant disrespect. Pryor, an arrogant member of the Elysian race, stood at the forefront of the council. His mandibles clicked as he spoke, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with disdain. Humans are technologically, culturally, and evolutionarily inferior, Pryor declared, his voice dripping with condescension. We should feel fortunate to grant them even 10-star systems for expansion. The other council members murmured in agreement, their chirps and clicks underscoring the council's decision to reject humanity's request for more territory. Nolan's jaw clenched as Pryor motioned to pass the resolution, sealing humanity's fate with a near-unanimous vote. As Nolan turned to leave, Pryor's mocking voice echoed through the chamber. Be grateful for our generosity, human. And remember, you have 30 cycles to withdraw from any systems beyond your allotted 10. After that, well, it would be in your best interest to comply. Nolan walked out of the chamber, his heart heavy with shame and anger. The future of billions of humans now hung in the balance, their hopes dashed by the council's dismissal. But as the chamber doors closed behind him, the aliens remained unaware that humanity had not come unprepared. A massive cloaked fleet, invisible to all known forms of detection, had just appeared behind the station, with weapons locked on the council chamber. Pryor and the rest of the Galactic Council were about to learn that underestimating humanity came with a very high price. Humanity's secret weapon. Admiral Nolan Reyes stood on the bridge of the TFS Retribution, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen displaying the vastness of space. The bridge was abuzz with activity, as the crew monitored the status of the cloaked fleet and ensured that their presence remained undetected. It had been 5 years since humanity's humiliating defeat at the Galactic Council. In that time, the Terran Federation had focused all its efforts on building a military force that could rival even the most advanced species in the galaxy. Resources were diverted from civilian projects, and the brightest minds were tasked with developing cutting-edge technologies that would give humanity the edge it needed. The turning point had come with the discovery of a crashed alien ship on a remote fringe world. The technology recovered from the wreckage had been reverse-engineered and integrated into the new fleet's design. Inertial dampeners, anti-gravity systems, and energy shielding had been adapted and improved upon. But the crown jewel of humanity's achievements was the stealth technology. This innovation allowed human ships to move unnoticed through the galaxy, a closely guarded secret known only to a select few. Nolan's thoughts drifted back to the council meeting 5 years ago, and the memory of Pryor's smug expression as he dismissed humanity's plea for more territory. Today, that smugness would be wiped from his face. Nolan's fleet, bristling with advanced weaponry and cloaked in invisibility, was in position to deliver a decisive blow. Admiral, all ships are in position and awaiting your command, the communications officer reported, snapping Nolan out of his reverie. Nolan nodded, his jaw set with resolve. He took a deep breath and issued the order that would change the course of galactic history. Decloak the fleet. The revelation. Across alien space, human warships shimmered into view as their cloaking devices disengaged. The sleek, angular vessels hung in formation, their hulls bristling with weapons. Panic erupted among the alien fleets stationed near the Council's space as they scrambled to comprehend the sudden appearance of such a massive and well-armed human armada. Nolan opened a communication channel to the Elysian homeworld, his voice steady and filled with quiet confidence. Greetings from the Terran Federation. We're back. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the stunned faces of the Elysian leaders. Nolan allowed himself a small smile as he saw the realization dawn on their features. The humans, once dismissed as an insignificant species, now held the upper hand. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos as alarms blared and panicked shouts filled the air. Reports flooded in of human warships decloaking across Council space, leaving the Council members reeling from the sudden, unexpected threat. Pryor, the newly appointed head counselor, felt his blood run cold as he scanned the incoming data. The sheer scale of the human fleet was staggering. Ships were appearing in every sector, every system. This was no mere raiding party. This was an armada. "I want every ship we have deployed now." Pryor barked orders rapidly, his mind racing through the dozens of key systems now under threat. But even as he spoke, he watched the blood drain from the faces of his subordinates. The tactical display told a grim story. Human ships were already in position at every major hyperspace lane, their guns aimed at any vessel that dared approach. The humans had the Council in checkmate before the game had even begun. Humanity's demands. The door to the Council chamber burst open, and a junior aide, his face ashen, rushed to Pryor's side. "Counselor, we're being hailed by the human flagship. They're demanding to speak with you." The aide's voice trembled. Pryor drew in a deep breath, fighting to maintain his composure. He could not afford to show weakness, not now. "Put them through," Pryor ordered, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his gut. The view screen flickered to life, and Pryor found himself staring into the cold, smiling face of Admiral Nolan Reyes, the human who had stood in the petitioner's box 5 years ago, pleading for his species' future, now held the power to destroy them all. "Counselor Pryor, how good to see you again," Nolan said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "It seems the tables have turned since our last meeting. Now it is humanity dictating terms to the Council." Rage surged through Pryor's veins. How dare this upstart species threaten the Council? They ruled the galaxy. "What is the meaning of this, human? How dare you?" But Nolan cut him off with a sharp gesture. The human's smile vanished, replaced by a cold, hard stare that seemed to pierce through the screen. "What we want, Counselor, is respect. We want an end to your arrogant dismissal of humanity. We want a seat on the Council, as is our right." Nolan leaned forward, his eyes boring into Pryor's. "And most of all, we want you to remember this moment. The moment you realize that you gravely miscalculated when you made an enemy of the human race." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Pryor could feel the eyes of every counselor on him, could sense their fear and their anger. This couldn't be happening. It had to be a bluff. The humans couldn't possibly. "You have 24 hours to comply with our demands," Nolan said, his voice cutting through Pryor's racing thoughts. "If you do not, well, let's just say it is in your best interest to comply." The transmission cut out abruptly, leaving Pryor staring at a blank screen. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Pryor could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. 24 hours. That was all the time he had to find a way out of this, to salvage the Council's authority and crush this human uprising. But as he looked around at the stunned, frightened faces of his fellow counselors, Pryor felt a sinking realization settle in his gut. The humans had played their hand perfectly. They held all the cards now, and the Galactic Council, in all its arrogance and complacency, had no one to blame but themselves. The Council's desperation. In the heart of the Elysian capital, Pryor stormed into the Grand Council chamber. The normally pristine room was a flurry of activity, with aides and officials scrambling about in a panic. Pryor slammed his fist on the large oval table, silencing the room. "The humans have us surrounded. Their ships appeared out of nowhere with technology we've never seen before. We need a plan, and we need it now," Pryor growled. The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, each offering their own solution. "We should surrender immediately. Their technology is far superior to ours. We stand no chance," one counselor shouted. "Nonsense. If we combine our forces with the other council races, we can still crush these upstarts," another argued. Pryor listened to the debate, his own mind racing. Part of him wanted to fight, to put these humans back in their place. But another part, a growing part, began to doubt. Could they really win this war? Suddenly, a young officer burst into the room, his face pale, his eyes wide with fear. "Counselor, we've lost contact with our border colonies," he blurted out. The room fell silent, the weight of this news sinking in. "What do you mean, lost contact?" Pryor demanded. "In the last hour, all communications have gone dark. Our long-range sensors are detecting large energy signatures consistent with high-yield explosives," the officer explained, his voice shaking. Pryor's heart sank. The humans were already attacking. And from the looks of it, they weren't just attacking. They were wiping out entire planets. "We need to make contact with the humans now," Pryor said, his voice strained. The Council had pushed humanity too far, and now they were paying the price. If they didn't act quickly, there might not be a council left to save. Humanity's terms. Back aboard the TSS Retribution, Nolan sat in his command chair, surrounded by the hum of the ship's systems and the focused attention of his crew. The Galactic Council's desperation was palpable, their arrogance shattered in the face of humanity's newfound power. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Council," the communications officer reported. Nolan nodded. "Put it through." Pryor's face appeared on the view screen, his expression a mix of anger and fear. "Admiral Rice, the Galactic Council wishes to discuss terms," Pryor began, his voice lacking the confidence it once held. "Terms?" Nolan replied, raising an eyebrow. "I believe I already made our terms clear, Counselor." Pryor swallowed hard. Humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with equal rights and privileges as any other member race. Additionally, the territories you requested will be ceded to humanity without contest. In exchange, we request an immediate cessation of hostilities and the withdrawal of your forces. Nolan leaned back in his chair, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "You seem to misunderstand the situation, Counselor. The terms I offered were a starting point. Given recent events, I believe we'll need to revisit the terms of our agreement." Pryor's eyes widened in disbelief. You can't be serious. What more do you want?" Nolan's smile faded as he leaned forward, his gaze hardening. "I want justice, Counselor. I want those responsible for the attacks on human colonies to face trial. I want reparations for the damage your council has caused to our people, and I want your complete and unconditional surrender." Pryor's mouth opened and closed as he struggled to find words. The once mighty council was now at the mercy of the very species they had dismissed and ridiculed. "You have 1 hour to decide, Counselor," Nolan said, cutting off any further protest. 1 hour, or we finish what we started." The view screen went dark, leaving Pryor and the Council to grapple with the grim reality of their situation. The Galactic Council's surrender. The hour passed in agonizing silence. Pryor stood in the council chamber, the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. The other council members looked to him for guidance, but he had none to offer. The humans had outmaneuvered them at every turn, and now the council faced an impossible choice: surrender and live, or resist and be annihilated. Finally, Pryor gave the order: "Transmit our surrender to the human fleet. Inform them that we accept their terms." The words tasted like ash in his mouth, but there was no other option. The Galactic Council, once the unchallenged rulers of the galaxy, had been brought to its knees by the very species they had deemed unworthy. On the bridge of the TSS Retribution, Nolan received the Council's message with a sense of grim satisfaction. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would ensure that it changed for the better. "Prepare the fleet for withdrawal," Nolan ordered, his voice calm and steady. "We've made our point. Now it's time to build a new future, one where humanity is respected and feared." As the human fleet began to pull back, the message was clear. Humanity was no longer a species to be trifled with. They had earned their place among the stars, and they would defend it with all the strength and ingenuity they possessed. The galaxy would never forget the day the humans fought back and won.